This is a really hard list because all of his movies are masterpieces, right?
How long did it take you, man?
It actually didn't take me as long as I thought. I mean, his movies are all really, really good.
Hmm.
So you would think it would be hard to come up with a list for those reasons, but they're all so different and they all resonate with me in different ways. So I think that made it a lot easier. It also helps that like three of them are Batman movies, and it's like I just tried to put just one on the list. So. All right, we are back, and Will, you and I will be talking about our top five Christopher Nolan movies of all time. Now, this is a
Man.
hard list to compile because the guy really hasn't had a flop. All his movies are amazing. So, how do we come up with a list? I don't know what criteria you use. I just use the ones that resonated the most with me because all his movies are just, from a technical standpoint, perfect.
Okay.
So let's just go into this. We'll go back and forth. We'll go through our fives, our fours, our threes, and so on and so forth. So why don't you get started with your number five film, Will?
Yeah. So before I go, like my list is a mixture of just kind of like the mind of Nolan and just like what from what I grasp towards just the way how he creates a film and story,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously to also the technical aspects as well. So
Mm-hmm.
my number five starts with actually a short film that he did called Doodlebug,
Mm-hmm.
and the film to me that film was basically the set that set the tone and style of Nolan's future work. From my understanding, like when I
Mm-hmm.
saw this at film school, it made such an impression on me on how brilliant the concept was. It
Mm-hmm.
was one of the major inspirations that challenged me to really think outside of the box. He does a great job leaving you blown away psychologically, and a lot of his films definitely have more of a psychological push to for the viewer to really dig deeper into what he's trying to tell in the message. And so so in this film, like when the character is attempting to kill what we believe to be an insect, he reveals that it's not, but a miniature version of himself mimicking every movement he's making. Then this like reciprocates a larger version emerging behind him, making the situation like an endless cycle.
Mm.
So it's like this kind of a paradox, kind of short film psychological thriller, and but
Interesting.
the way he did it though was like, who the frick thinks this way, right? And that's when I first saw it. I was like, what the heck? I want to be able to have ideas like that because
Interesting.
it was so
Yeah.
so interesting. Yeah,
I
and
haven't
I
seen this
yeah.
movie. How long is it? And do you know when it was released?
1997, I believe, and the short film's only 3 minutes.
Yeah. Was it in black and white?
It's in black and white. Yeah, actually, you can look it up on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, his
Cool.
entire short. Yeah, so yeah,
Interesting.
so that was really just for me like, okay, this is what really started for Nolan, and just from there just more gold comes out,
Yeah.
of his head. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
that was my number five. What's in your number five?
My number five film is Memento. So
Wow,
Nolan,
I'm
yeah, it's
surprised.
lower on the list than I would have thought, but I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. So
Okay.
Nolan's narrative structure has always been original in all of his movies. He toys with non-linearity quite a bit, and he does so here. The structure here behind Memento is probably the most ambitious in the way that it works. Of course, we're dealing with a character with short-term memory loss who basically forgets every new memory that he creates. I think it's every like 15 minutes or so. So we have a black and white section, and then we have a color section, and those movies are like running in like reverse order to the
Mm-hmm.
point where we're meeting and they meet and we're told something startling about the main character. So that's unique in itself, but I feel like this was at a point in Nolan's career where, you can know he's good with characters and good with story and good with structure, but it's almost as if he didn't even know quite yet how big of a filmmaker he can be, how many big, gigantic themes he can also incorporate into the strengths that Memento had.
Hmm.
So it was just kind of seeing our director on the rise. The movie is amazing by itself, but I feel like he was able to just accomplish bigger feats later on. So that's the only reason why it's a little lower on this list. It's pretty much still a perfect movie. Yeah, but really, really great work from Nolan. It's based off of his short story that his brother Jonathan Nolan wrote. Good performances. I love Joe Pantoliano. Also love Guy Pearce,
Guy
of course.
Pearce. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, amazing. And the psychological aspects of this film, when they talk about,
Yeah.
they're basically revealing something really deep about the human psyche and how it tends to deal with trauma and loss. And I'm not going to give that part away, but it's a really interesting idea that he has and how he kind of goes about getting his point across. So that's my number 5. What is your number 4 film, Will?
My number 4 is Interstellar. Beautiful film of time and space, and as you reiterated earlier, about just the beauty of, you know, the psychological aspect of like promising to return and to his Matthew McConaughey's character to return to his daughter and whatnot, but like not realizing just how much time passes by, and then and as age is different, performed from space than on Earth. I think that what really this film though, like what really drew me to it was more of the tech behind, more so than the story. Although the story, like I said, was good with a solid cast. I mean, like I said, Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Michael Caine, David Oyelowo, Jessica Chastain. Dude, they worked. I feel like Nolan does a great job picking actors that just work so cohesively together very well.
Yeah.
But what impressed me from the technical aspect was the creation of the black hole
Yeah.
that took 100 hours to render and over 800 terabytes of data. And when you look at it, you're just like, this is just
A black hole.
a black hole. And it took 800 terabytes of data. What? And 100 hours to render. So yeah, I was like, all right, well, when you want to execute something, you go for it, Nolan. So
Yeah.
that was my number 4. Yeah, but yeah, what about yours?
My number 4 is Inception. So this is basically the first time Nolan really flexed his muscle and exercised the creative freedom that he won after The Dark Knight. It's a wholly original concept, which was rare. It's especially rare today, but it was still rare 10 years ago when the movie came out. And though, the idea of the concept of idea theft within dreams was perfectly executed with big set pieces and an amazing cast. It makes me salivate for what Nolan has planned for Tenet, because literally, like if you think about it, he does all of these incredibly original things in terms of narrative structure with time, and also he also does these incredible things with like memory and of just exploring something that hasn't been explored before. So you're taking all of those things and you put them together, and I feel like that's what you're going to get in Tenet. So we'll see.
I don't know how I felt about it when you said the word salivate. It was
Yeah.
just kidding.
I have been waiting so long to watch Tenet. But
Yeah.
I think Inception or Tenet is going to be Inception plus like Dunkirk equals Tenet is kind of what I'm thinking.
They had
Because
a baby.
Dunkirk, they do so many things with time, right? And what
Yeah.
happens in a certain amount of time. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts. What's your number 4 film?
My number 3.
Oh yeah, sorry. What's your number 3 film?
So my number 3 is actually number 4, which is Inception. As I've reiterated in our review, like powerful cast, out of the box concept, that brought what we know about basically the Matrix to a more realistic aspect of the mind, and also like sharing the same space within the mind. I loved how Nolan explained at Comic-Con back in 2010, where he stated the key to completing the script was wondering what would happen if several people shared the same dream. Once you remove the privacy, you've created an infinite number of alternate universes in which people can meaningfully interact with validity, with weight, with dramatic consequences. And I thought,
Interesting.
freaking dude, man,
Who thinks like that?
how can I think like you?
Yeah.
So
My number 3 film is Interstellar. So I once had a friend tell me that this film was all hubris from Christopher Nolan. He's basically trying to achieve something even bigger than what he did before. Even from like comparing The Dark Knight
totally
and
disagree.
Inception.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But I don't think it was hubris at all. I think hubris
No.
is a sense of overconfidence and arrogance that basically leads to your downfall. And I think in this case, Nolan wanting to reach further and go higher and try to accomplish more with his movies in terms of what they're trying to convey. I think that's what any sort of creative is trying to do here. And I thought that he largely succeeded in this film. Creatively, my mind was like all my synapses were firing at like 100 miles an hour because like I was such a space nerd growing up, and I love the idea of black holes and such, and just to see this movie's representation of things in space. They get into astrophysics, they get into time travel. And they even show, I don't know if you've ever heard of these things on planet Earth, but there's what's called gravitational vortexes. There are areas on planet Earth where the laws of physics don't apply. And so they even get into that, like that room, right? Where that one room, the room with the books.
Yeah,
You know
with
what I'm
Jessica
talking about?
Chastain's character in the house.
Yeah,
Yeah, when
yeah.
she looks at
That
it.
that
Yeah.
room is a gravitational vortex. The laws of physics didn't apply in that room, and it also is a connection to the black hole. And just visually, how they showed that was incredible. My mind was just blown after McConaughey went in the black hole, and he's trying to reach out and talk to his daughter, and how he was the one that was pushing the books out. It was just so incredible that they even tried to like not only show a black hole but shows what could be inside. That is insane. There was a movie that came out maybe 20 years ago called Contact. I don't know if you remember
I
it.
do remember Contact. Yeah.
But it was based on the book by Carl Sagan, and people were just so excited because the book just really was about kind of expanding your horizons and opening your mind to what's out there in the universe. This movie was what Contact should have been. And what's funny is McConaughey is in both of these films, but really, this movie succeeds in everything that it tries to accomplish, but it's also just heartbreaking when you see McConaughey leave his daughter, played by Mackenzie Foy, and promises her that he'll be back, but he has to break the promise because he spends too much time on that one planet, and he's just crying as he watches his kids grow up and as they start to lose hope that their dad's going to come back. And then the emotional satisfaction at the end when he's reunited with his daughter, even though she's like older than him now. There's just something very beautiful about that reuniting scene. So
Yeah, she didn't lose hope. That was the
yeah.
beautiful thing too. She never lost hope, and her
Yeah.
dad coming back. So
I was in tears actually at the end of this film. And in my opinion, this is Hans Zimmer's best score of all time. And that's saying a lot because he did Lion King, Pirates, Inception, Black Hawk Down. But to me, this is his best work. His use of church organs, incredible.
Yeah.
So that is my number 3 film. What is your number 2 film?
my number 2 film is your number 5, which is Memento. Like the first Nolan film I watched, and I didn't even know it was by him. All I knew at the time was it blew my mind, especially in the way it was edited, and that was kind of me like falling really more in love with editing, and amazing story and concept of short-term memory loss and a man trying to track down the murderer of his wife. Like basically that's what the synopsis is, and just how he's able to piece that together. And even like when you look on YouTube, there's a interview of him, like how he's able to put it together from like how you were saying the black and white to the color, and like how the movie starts from the beginning and the end and meets in the middle. Like I was just like, yeah. From your friend who said that, like, when Nolan's with his film trying to be more hubris or whatever have you, like I think Nolan just has so many great ideas that really it's not about like one upping what he did before. It's just for him, it's like, which one do I really feel passionate about right now? And how can I really expand on that and challenge myself to really tell the story in the best way possible? Never in the sense I get this feeling of Nolan trying to one up his last film, So for Memento, it was just that for me. It was just how he's just like, he's so meticulous, man. He's so good at being able to really challenge himself and really tell the best story he can. So yeah, that's why I put my Memento at number 2. So
Cool.
more technical aspect in that sense too. So what about you?
My number 2 film is Dunkirk. Once again, another example of how Nolan uses time in a unique way to present an entirely new narrative structure. This movie was understated in so many ways. There are no main characters. There's no character change or character arc. There's not any one person that we follow throughout the film. So you would think that because of that, we would feel detached from the film and from the plot, but that's not true because this entire point is about, this whole movie is about many people coming together to accomplish the same goal, regular people doing so, right? this movie I didn't think would be moving. It was edge of your seat, like crazy and fun. But then at the end, I was extremely moved. And there are two images from this movie that I will not forget. And that is why it's at number 2 on my list. The first one is when Kenneth Branagh, the admiral, looks out and he sees a sea full of small, like passenger private boats coming towards them. And it's basically salvation in the form of regular people. And I was just so moved in that scene. And it kind of reminds me, like, what the heck happened to us? Now people don't even wear face masks, you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, the other scene is when Tom Hardy loses fuel and crash lands on the beach, and he sets his plane on fire, and he just stands in front of the plane, kind of, and it just looks so gangster. And I was just so moved by that visual, and he was just so badass in that movie. And then he gets taken away, of course, by like Nazis. But
Yeah.
those two movies in my mind are just indelible and will be kind of etched into my mind when I think of film. All right. I think we're down to our number 1 films now, and I believe we agree here.
We
And
agree both.
Picked, yeah, we both picked The Dark
Dark
Knight. Why did you
Knight.
pick The Dark Knight?
Okay. Plain and simple. Batman is my favorite superhero of all time, ever since I was a kid. And the Joker is one of my favorite supervillain in the Batman universe. This one's at number 1 purely based for the most part because of that. Even like out of the other 2 Batmans, you know what I mean? But however, I think that Nolan took this to a psychologically dramatic level, once again showing his out of the box brilliance as well. I will really say too that like Heath Ledger, man, like for every intent and purposes of doubt that I had with him being the Joker, I think really made a huge impression of how amazing he was in this film. And just the way how him and Batman confronted each other, and the way that the relationship was, man, have I not felt so on a different level of what I never would have imagined the relationship of Batman and Joker would be in the regular graphic novels, and then in the regular shows that I've always grew up seeing. So plain and simple, dude. Just, yeah, very biased. So
Cool.
what about you?
Yeah, I mean, this movie was really lightning in a bottle. It's what you get when you have a lot of things that are perfect come together to make what is basically a perfect film. You had the perfect villain. You had the perfect character in Bruce Wayne, and the perfect actor playing him. And you had a director that is basically coming into his prime. You had a lot of amazing action sequences that were completely anchored within the plot, and a lot of things that the main character just has to go through to accomplish what he's trying to get done. You also have basically a comic book being turned into an American crime story type movie.
Huge. Yes.
Huge. Yeah. Big stakes. And it reimagines Batman into something bigger. It's almost like a crime drama. It's not a comic book movie. And so that, unique take on it, along with all of the tech and the fancy gadgets, the Batpod coming out of the Batmobile, that tractor trailer chase scene, which ends in the big rig flipping end over end, the perfect performance, just the perfect take on a supervillain that we all thought we knew. So much of this was just all of these elements coming together to basically create what, in my opinion, is the best comic book movie of all time. And I think that for the rest of our lives, or for my life, I think people will be trying to make comic book movies that measure up to The Dark Knight, and I don't think anyone will ever come close. That's what I think.
Be honest, though. When you first, if you can recollect, heard that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, did you have like huge confidence in his? Really?
Yeah. Just because I know Nolan knows how to cast for his movies. And this is Heath Ledger coming off of Brokeback Mountain. And he was incredible in that movie. I saw that he was someone willing to completely immerse himself into a character.
Yeah.
And I knew he would do that here. And he's one of those guys that you just didn't know what to expect from him at that point in his career. And I thought that would also work in his favor. So
high confidence in him, but you just didn't know what to expect. But you definitely had high hopes for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right. So that was our list of top 5 Christopher Nolan movies. Will and I agreed for the most part on many of our picks.
Just moving around a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah. So if any of you have your own differing thoughts, we would love to hear them. Go ahead and send us an email at the podfellaspodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you saw and heard, if you're watching a video, go ahead and hit like. Subscribe to us. We would really appreciate that. And if there are any sort of suggestions on future content, please leave a comment in the comment section. For our podcast listeners, we will be back next week with a fresh new episode. So we'll see you all then.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.